Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to On the Homefront. My name is John Murphy. Very happy to share some time with you once again. You might be catching us live here on WILI AM and FM on Wednesdays at 5. We're also video recorded for YouTube, and the radio programs here in the afternoon all have their own playlists. If you go to YouTube at WILI Radio, you get all the playlists for the show. You can catch them live or later. You know, a lot of what we do is we give our guests a chance to tell their stories, and then they can share them in their media so they can connect and use our program beyond us to help them tell their story any way they can. It's kind of a community focus that we have. Our program this week will be in two parts. For the second half, we're going to look at an important regional arts resource called Assets for Artists. They have a new series of programs for July and August that involve the personal development of artists and their skills, and also management and business training. If you're trying to make a living and go beyond the stage of personal hobbies, this training will help you move forward and not reinvent the wheel. So we'll talk to Molly Rideout, the assistant director, for the second half of the show. For the first half of the show, I'm very happy to share a phone call with Paul Kahn. He's in New York, and I love sharing airtime with creators in the arts, and Paul is a musician. He's a songwriter, a music producer, and many years ago he set up an artist management and booking agency that's been very active, and he's worked with artists and representing people such as Roseanne Cash, Booker T and the MGs, Clarence Gatemouth Brown, and others. Also international artists, Ali Farka Touré, who's a phenomenal artist as well. So Paul, thanks for sharing some time today. I appreciate you joining us here on the radio.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. It's my honor and privilege to be with you.
Okay, I think we're getting our phones pretty well set up now. The reason why we're talking to Paul today is that he's recently released a wonderful EP called Willingness. It's a collection of 6 tunes that he also produced with his partner, Catherine Russell. And we talked on the phone the other day about his history, some of the work he's done with the media, the record industry. But we're going to begin with his own love for music and his roots. I enjoyed the collection. I heard it a couple of times in my car, and then I spent some time with it more deeply. And I enjoyed the writing, his story selection, and the production. Some really nice messaging for these crazy times. And I want to thank you for all the work you did, Paul, to put this together.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thank you for sharing it with your listeners.
So perhaps one start is some of these songs you've had for a long time, and I noticed in some of the material it's taken a long time for them to finally take form. Maybe a launching pad for our chat today is where some of these songs came from in your own personal history, and how you realized them in the studio with Catherine for this EP.
Well, they were songs that I had written 25 to 30 years ago.
Right.
And I demoed them in a den in a house I was living in, and worked on a 4-track cassette recorder.
Oh boy!
Mixing down. Yeah, I played all the parts. I played guitar, mandolin. I had a Casio keyboard that I played bass lines and.
Oh yeah.
The percussion parts actually had a Zydeco setting on this Casio, which made me very happy because I had kind of pioneered in bringing Zydeco music from Southwest Louisiana to an international audience. And when I got this little keyboard, I was, Zydeco, that's progress.
It must have been awful to work with Buckwheat years later. That must have been a real treat.
Well, actually, I had already been working with Buckwheat for maybe 15 years when I got to Casio and saw the Zydeco setting on it. Yeah.
So the title track is Willingness, and it's a really nice, gentle song for some times today that are very harsh in many ways. Whenever people turn on the news, most of the time it's a fire hose of negative energy. Even though reality is hard and people have to talk about it, they don't get a lot of positive energy as much. And I wondered how this particular tune was chosen as the title. And the lyric itself is very personal and reassuring in a realistic way, not trying to deny or be comfortable with the world on fire, but taking a different look at it that's more personal and more reflective.
Well, I think of willingness as a meditative prayer, in a way, for peace and justice. And I like to think of that duality, not just for peace, but for peace and justice. And the song came about feeling despair in the early to mid-1990s I think one of the things that prompted me to write the song was the conflict in the Middle East, which just seemed intractable, and there were two sides that couldn't be reconciled, and there was violence and bloodshed, and I was just trying to make some sense of all of that, and that's how the song came to be written.
Now, some of your earlier work was in bluegrass and more Americana roots. Some of those from maybe from the '80s, and there was a band that you were with for a while that was based, I believe, in Boston. Is that right? Tasty Licks.
Yeah. Tasty Licks was based in Boston, and actually before I joined that band, I was living in Ashford, Connecticut,
That's right.
near where you're based, and so I moved up to the Boston area expressly to try to get into a working band, and I had been bitten by the bluegrass bug when I was living in the Midwest in late 1960s, early 1970s, and attended Bill Monroe's Bluegrass Festival in Bean Blossom, Indiana.
Wow.
And heard all of the first generation greats of bluegrass music, everyone from Bill Monroe, Jim and Jesse, and Don Reno and Red Smiley, and on and on. So yeah, that's a band that I played in, and I played bass and sang, and Bela Fleck was our banjo player. His first gig out of high school, he was 16 years old. I was in my 20s. Yeah. And those were heady times. And we were based in Boston, but we played a lot of gigs in Connecticut. And I kind of think of New England really as the place where I had my formative years as a musician and also an artist, manager, and booking agent.
Right. Well, we both share the same New York City roots in general, from the Bronx and Yonkers, and you're from the Lower East Side of Manhattan, so we shared the same water supply for a while.
Oh, yeah.
It's still the best water in the nation, they say, right? That's what they always say very proudly in New York, the best water in the nation.
Yeah, I think it comes from a reservoir somewhere north of the city.
Yeah, that's right. But by the way, I want to mention, in case you've just joined us, we're on the phone today with Paul Kahn about a new release called Willingness. And I wondered, at some point we're going to hear that track, and we're going to have time to hear another one later, but I wondered about putting this collection together with Catherine. What was that process like for you? Did you get to record a lot of this live, or did you add tracks afterward? How did you assemble the pieces once you figured out the story form?
Well, we recorded 6 songs in 2 days. We did all the tracking in 1 day with a trio that consisted of Matt Munisteri on guitars, Sean Pelton on drums, and Russell Hall on bass. And Catherine and I kind of chose those musicians together, and we went back for a second day and we added accordion on 2 tracks, and did some fixes, and then we kind of let things ruminate for a while, and then we went back over the course of the next, I would say, 2 to 3 months, doing, tweaking the arrangements, having people overdub, Hammond organ and flute, and that's how it came together.
Sometimes when I talk to musicians, they do things and they share tracks and they go back and forth because the logistics of recording aren't accessible to them. They can't get in the same studio, so they have to, share what they can through transmissions and back and forth. But I'm sure for you as a musician and player, and also working with musicians for so many years in their own process, being together in the room is always the best way, right? As much as you can, everybody in the same space. Is that how you feel?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And especially now with so much of everything being AI generated and fake and not real human interaction, in people sharing the same space in the same room and breathing, the same air, as we said, drinking the same water.
Yeah.
We always, I had, at the time we made my EP, I had produced or co-produced 9 Catherine Russell CDs. We launched her solo recording career in 2005, and we always, took the same approach, which was to have all the musicians in the studio together, do the tracking, and have it be as live as possible. And then you can go in and overdub and do fixes. But we really like the live sound that you get with musicians playing together.
Sure. And I should congratulate you on your 3 Grammy nominations, too. That's always a reinforcement. Being nominated is a great reinforcement of your process, and it's very positive energy in a situation where sometimes resources are hard to find, or connecting to people. Even though you can go anywhere and everywhere all at once, how do you really connect beyond the moment and the transaction, right? To stay connected.
That's the challenge.
So let's take a second and hear a tune. We have a few more minutes to go. We're speaking with Paul Kahn. And I chose the song Willingness because of the lyric, which I said before is very encouraging. I'll let the music speak for itself. But then I want to talk about the opening track, which you might call in the music lingo. It could be the single off the album. It's a very nice kind of reggae sound with some very nice flute layered in there called Stain on My Sleeve. But we'll get to that after we first hear the title track, Willingness. Enjoy.
Willingness to take a risk, to right a wrong, to get along with those who do not share your point of view, more than a few. Obstacles to miracles, potholes on the road now. All it takes to fill them in, we must be willing to begin. Compromise with open eyes, see your truth as someone's lies. All it really takes is willingness. So difficult to overcome, cloudy contradictions, undermining sun from shining, searching for that silver lining. Walls have crumbled, though we stumble. To be great, we must be humble. Learned this from a baker who made pretzels out of dough. As we stroll along together, crack along the sidewalk. When I tripped, we turned around, retraced our steps on hallowed ground. Let's find a way, no debt to pay. Make amends, a brand new day is possible if there is willingness. So difficult to overcome, cloudy contradictions, undermining sun from shining, searching silver lining. Let's find a way, no debt to pay. Make amends, a brand new day. Possible if there is willingness. Possible if there is willingness. Possible if there is willingness.
Alrighty, we're back live now with Paul Kahn. That was the title track from his recently released EP. It was called Willingness. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed that lyric today. Things are pretty harsh, and that's the point of view. If only we could agree, right? If we were willing, what is it that makes the decision? Is it what force is needed to do some of these things? But when you put that one together, Paul, how did that come? Let's talk about that a little bit, lyrically speaking, because some of your songs are very reflective, and in a few words, you really combine years of life in a couple of lines, and people drop it backwards. It's like playing a film backwards, and you've just told a story in a couple of lines. It's amazing.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm quite flattered to hear that. You know, this song, one of those songs that wrote itself, and it's really a plea for people to just be willing to listen to each other and to be able to overcome disagreements. And one of the lyrics that was sort of autobiographical is I talk about, you know, walking along the sidewalk and tripping and then turning around and retracing our steps. And that was strictly a personal reflection of time I spent with my grandfather in the Bronx. And, you know, we'd be walking down the sidewalk, and exactly what I talk about in the song. When I tripped, he wouldn't let me continue walking. He'd like turn around and go back and go over it again and do it without tripping. A teachable moment. And when I think back on it, it's really the immigrant experience, because my grandfather was a baker. Talk about him making pretzels out of dough. And that was part of the story of the song.
Well, I want to give some website information to reach Paul, to stay in touch with his work. And I'm going to have Paul back on later in the year whenever he finishes a project. He's doing something amazing on the work of Louis Russell, some newly discovered recordings from the late 30s. And this guy goes back to... Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, we issued a CD of material that we discovered in Catherine's mother's closet, which were acetates and aluminum and glass discs of recordings that her dad, Louis Russell, had made in 1938 through 1940 of his orchestra performing with Louis Armstrong live. And so we put that collection together.
I'd
love to, you know, revisit you and talk about that project. And also, I did some recordings with Catherine and her mom, Carleen Ray, who is another music legend, a guitar player, bass player, vocalist, primarily a vocalist, who worked with the International Sweethearts of Rhythm and Mary Lou Williams. And back right after I met Catherine, we were playing some tunes together with myself, Catherine, and her mom, Carleen Ray, playing bass and singing, and we recorded 4 demos, which I'm hoping to release later this year.
Well, maybe we combine a conversation with some of that family history as well as talking about Louis, because as I read more, he goes back to his early days. He's from Panama, did stuff with King Oliver, had his own group, a real bit of history there, and finding that must have been such a surprise. There it was in the closet next to some old shirts, you know, wow. Incredible.
Well, it was next to, you know, he saved everything.
Yeah.
You know, recordings, photographs. It's a whole archive of American music, really.
So one thing I want to do while we have a few minutes left with Paul is talk about the industry today, because he's had several decades of service, and the way people are getting music today, it's free everywhere. Nobody has to pay unless you want to, and for artists to get on Spotify, to get on the free channels, it's very hard to get enough of a return to kind of make a long-term living that way. It's very difficult. The formulas are hard. So I wanted to ask Paul, as an artist manager and a producer, and also your own work, how has the environment changed today from when you started in terms of how easy or how much more difficult it is to do the same basic nuts and bolts you still have to do after 50 years?
Well, it's changed so drastically. When I started as a booking agent, I remember, having a telex and communicating with people in Europe via telex. And the fax machine was, it was a drum, and the paper was like coated and it faded soon after you would print out a fax. And I remember getting our first computer, and then going through, Y2K and having to redo all the software, thinking that it would be doomsday, but things actually didn't reset at all.
Yeah.
And then, my basic advice to artists is the same as it's always been, which is you're an independent artist and you're trying to figure out how to get your music out there, how to tour, where to play, what to do. And I always advise qualify your prospects. And what I mean by that is try to look around and see what other artists are out there doing what you'd like to be doing, and just study how are they doing it. And really, everything now is do-it-yourself, self-promotion. Mm-hmm. Record labels have become mostly irrelevant, and everything has gone to streaming.
Yeah.
And yet, the pushback to all of that is that artists are figuring out ways to just create their own universe of connections, and vinyl is coming back.
It is. It is. There's a way.
And CDs are still viable, even though, like, we go to gigs and people will come up to the merch table and say, "Ooh, look at that! They're still making LPs," and they'll look at the CDs and say, "Oh, I wish I still had a CD player." And it's quite amusing. We've done gigs with John Pizzarelli, and he would joke with the audience, "I'll be signing my CDs after the show if you want to come by, and maybe they'll sell you a CD player." Because that's almost what it takes, because people don't have a means to play. But that's really not entirely true, because people are still buying CDs and buying vinyl.
Yeah. And
as well as streaming.
And they are starting to sell CD players again. For a while they were kind of extinct, and now some of the players are coming back. And by the way, I'm holding my copy of your CD closer to the microphone so people at home on the radio can get a better view of the image, you and Caroline in the studio. Well, I just want to mention again, you can reach Paul at paulkahn.com, and he's also on Instagram and Facebook. And you have a YouTube channel. Could you briefly describe what's there before we say goodbye? What's on YouTube, and would it be under your name or something else?
Well, my YouTube channel is under Real Paul Kahn.
Okay.
And there'll be a lot of content added over the next months. But right now, there are 3 full song videos of the 3 singles from the Willingness EP that are currently released. So there's a video for Stand on My Sleeve, Pull Another Leaf from the Clover,
right,
and No One to Cry To. Those are basically mashups of us in the studio recording those tracks.
Well, the next time we chat, I want to ask you about both of those songs, Staying on My Sleeve and Pull Another Leaf from the Clover. And we'll also have a chance to talk about the work about the recordings you found of Louis Russell and the music of Carlene Ray. So, Paul Kahn, I want to thank you very much for sharing some of the time today and the spirit of your music. I wish you well with the new release, and I look forward to our next conversation very much.
Well, John, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks very much. You take care. Have a great summer.
Okay, you too.
All right. Ciao, as they say. Okay, well, we'll take a short break and come back. You stay with us. If you're an artist, there's training programs for July and August from Assets for Artists that are available to you for free. Stay with us. Don't go away. All righty, we're back live on the Homefront. Glad to have you with us here. Just want to mention, if you have some news to share, if you'd like to join us in the studio and take some time to tell a story, please feel free to join us. John at humanartsmedia.com is the email. The studios are here. We're here live every Wednesday at 5 o'clock for an hour. And then all of our programs in the afternoon here are on YouTube at the WILI radio channel. One of our great regional resources in our region is called Assets for Artists. They serve artists in all of our regional states, including Connecticut, of course. And I'm on the phone right now with Molly Rideout. She's the assistant director of A4A. I've had her on the phone many times over the years about their training programs to help artists with personal development, business development, and marketing assistance. And they're just starting out a new summer series. She's here today to talk about July and August. So, Molly, thanks for joining us today. And it's always great to share the studio with you, even on the phone.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, folks, if you just want to stay with us, the website to follow up on everything you're about to hear is assetsforartists.org. So it's real simple, assetsforartists.org. And we have July and August. How did it go for June now? You've started. You had a bunch we talked about for May. How has it been so far with people and their participation?
It's been going well. We have maxed out a few of the workshops, but we've got a couple actually in the second half of June that are still open.
Ooh,
so as we're talking, if folks are really eager to jump right on some of the learnings, there's still space. So later in June, we have two workshops, one called Essentials of Digital Marketing with Francesca Olson, which will be on June 24th. And I'll say these are all online workshops. They're all on Zoom.
Right.
And pretty much all the ones we're going to talk about are also going to be recorded. And so we don't put them up on YouTube like you do with your show. So what that means is if you want to participate, but can't attend live, we still need you to register, and then we'll send you a link to the recording.
That's a great thing.
And that's the only way to get access to it. So make sure you register, even if you don't think you can make it live.
Yeah, these are wonderful workshops. I've taken some. I'm going to do the one on digital later this month. And if you have a problem and you have to miss it, Murphy's Law messes up your schedule. The recordings are very valuable. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really marketing summer for us over at Assets for Artists. That Essentials one in June, that's really, as the title says, it's very much like the basics of just understanding, what are the different things you want to be thinking about, and kind of goes over things at a high level. So social media, website, those components. But later in the summer, we have Francesca back in August. For kind of a 2.0 workshop for folks who have a website and they feel like pretty confident in understanding, how to build a website, how to navigate those things. We have a workshop called Driving Web Traffic That Matters, using search, ads, and analytics to market your work. And this one really dives into that kind of, to me at least, murky creature of search engine optimization, SEO.
Yep.
And so Francesca, she actually did this for Assets for Artists. She did this audit of our website with a focus on SEO and came back to us with, when people are finding your website, here are the terms that they're using. Here's, quirky things that you didn't even realize were still on your website from 10 years ago that you might want to delete or update. Mm-hmm. And so she's going to kind of go through how someone can do that kind of internal audit for their own website to make it work as well as possible for when someone's Googling you.
Well, it's so important to do that because folks always focus on the website itself and getting good content there. But driving traffic is the other side of the reward you need just to get people to see it. And these nuts and bolts you're talking about are really powerful that folks have used for huge commercial projects, and it works at the smaller scale just as well, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, if you think your website's all up to date and you find out that when someone Googles you, the first thing that comes up is a photo of you cannonballing into a swimming pool and you're wanting to present a slightly more professional side, that's something that's useful to know.
I'm so glad people listen to this show because, this is profound stuff here. I'm telling you.
That's what we bring. That's what we bring.
Yeah, but that's silly stuff. We're off topic, but people lose job opportunities, crazy stuff they didn't even think about was there. And you have to clean it all up because people are using this digital more than ever as a filter to help say yes or no. And this is why it can really come back to bite you. It's true. I laughed about it, but it's really, it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say another workshop we've got coming kind of between those two in the middle of June for folks who maybe aren't quite at the search engine optimization level, but do want to either build their first website or have a website that they feel they want to give a refresh to. We have another workshop called Power of Websites with Jessica Burko, and that one's really much more looking at the user experience of navigating your website. What information do you choose to have on there? What do you choose not to? How do you categorize things? What are in your drop-down menus? Is something easy to scroll? So very much that kind of graphic design aesthetics rather than the hard data of search engines. So we'll offer a little bit of all of that. And then, the one thing that I definitely want to plug is we are always wanting to learn more about taxes, and so we'll have one of our introductory tax workshops also in mid-July, Basic Taxes for Creatives, which will be in the evening on Thursday, July 16th. And this is kind of our taxes 101. So for folks who are I should probably start filing taxes for my creative business, I finally started earning enough income to make, to do that. What is a Schedule C? What do you put on a Schedule C? If in hearing this, you're oh gosh, I've never heard of a Schedule C, then this is the workshop for you. Learn about all those pieces.
One thing that comes up, it may not come up in these sessions, but is the idea of individuals getting over themselves to say, I need to collaborate. As great as my idea is, the way the funding works, the way the system is trying to channel energy, they're looking for collaboration now for whatever reason. Can you talk about that and how people just have to think beyond themselves as a partner?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the funding landscape these days, the grants or other opportunities, they're just a lot more competitive. And, the more people that apply for a smaller number of opportunities, of course, that means it becomes even more competitive. And so collaboration is a fantastic approach to do more with less. Maybe you are collaborating with a nonprofit, and because you're doing that work and they have a nonprofit status, they're able to apply to grants that you as an individual wouldn't be able to. Or maybe you're collaborating with another artist, and one of them, one of you is really good at Instagram and loves being on there, and the other one of you just hates it, but you're really good at talking to people. How can you divide up that labor so that the project that you're making happen together just is as impactful as it can be? I'm a writer in my own creative practice, and at times I might want to just spend all my time with my notebook writing, but that work eventually has to get out into the world if I want anyone to read it. And so who am I going to be connecting with within the community to do that? So maybe it's my local library, or for myself, I've been collaborating with our local historical society, thinking about things like that, of how to get the work out into the world.
But, leveraging what you have with others means a heavier lift if you leverage it. And I had a couple of applications. I had a fiscal sponsor because I'm a sole proprietorship. And if you're not one of those, and you can file for a nonprofit, you can get a sponsor, and projects can happen that way. It's just learning the legalities of how you have to place your work and who your partners are. And that's what these workshops help people think through. Just want to mention, in case you join us, we're talking with Molly Rideout, Assistant Director at the Assets for Artists program that serves all of New England. She talked about the power of websites. That's on July 9th. And basic taxes is on the 16th of July. And there's some in August coming up. We have some more time, Molly. Maybe you can talk about what it means to be authentic in a marketplace that sometimes is not authentic at all. But how do you become real?
Yeah, exactly. So this is one of our other marketing workshops for the summer. And this is really a workshop for people who want to figure out how to have more people know about their work, but all of those things like the word SEO or social media just, makes them want to curl up and hide under a rock. So this is really about not so much about like the how to make algorithms work or things like that. It's really about just how to talk about the work that you do. How do you describe what you do, and how do you make it connectable to other folks. And so Daniel Callahan is a wonderful visual artist and film artist, and has worked with us for a number of years teaching different types of workshops. And this one really dives into kind of like how to do that talking and how to make those connections, real physical human connections. And we actually have, for folks who want to dive more into the writing about your work and how to write a summary of what you're doing, I will jump back to the end of June and early July, and there's one other workshop called Radiant Thriving, Old Writing for Boundless Artists. And so that's all about how to find the language to talk about what you do in writing, and then later we'll have one about how to talk about, verbally what you do.
I hope you folks are realizing the things Molly's talking about are really priceless, because it helps you get over the wall that you're facing when you're trying to do more than have it as a hobby for personal enjoyment. If you want to make a living, I'm going to talk about licensing in a minute, but if you want to get your art out there, these business courses can save you years of frustration or wasted money or a sense of just not getting over the wall. And that's what A4A is for, is to help people at every level, local, whatever, get the dream, figure it out, add to the community, and all the tides rise. It sounds simple, but it really is. When you have the resources, they're sharing them, and it's a free Zoom, so my goodness. Going to the website is assetsforartists.org, and they're right there. So licensing, I see this a lot more than I used to. People who are visually inspired can get their images on everything, including a Pez dispenser, Pez, yeah. I miss Pez. But talk about licensing.
Yeah, so especially for visual artists, as you said, this workshop is for how to do just that, how to get your work being printed or created on fabric, on drink mugs, on all these different things, and not just how to do it yourself and have it on your website, but actually how to sell the image itself to companies that are interested in putting it on their own things. And so Allison Cole is a fantastic visual artist and illustrator just over the border from you in rural Rhode Island. And she's been doing this for many years, and everyone loves this workshop. It's really dynamic. And so I would recommend it. And like you said, all of our workshops are free. They're all online. So you don't even have to get dressed. You can pet your cat and drink as much tea as you want while you either watch live or later watch the recording.
That's fabulous. What can I say? I've taken some of these sessions, folks, and they're very useful. Is there anything else on the website besides training? I know there's a lot of stuff there, but apart from the individual trainings you're covering now, what other sources are there for people to learn more?
Yeah, I will say, too, that each of these workshops, if what you learn, you want more of and you want to dig in more, we do offer, after each workshop, it's usually about 5 individual one-on-one consultations with the workshop instructor. So if you want to really dive into SEO with Francesca Olson, you can sign up for one of these 1-hour sessions with her, and that also is totally free, so that's an additional resource. And then, if you go onto our website, assetsforartists.org, we have a really wide variety of resources under programs and other resources. Most of them are New England regional, some of them are national, but it's everything from, what are different things to think about when you get sick and suddenly you need some emergency funds. What are the emergency funds that are out there?
There are some, yes.
Yeah, if you're looking for artist workspace, what are different things to look at in that regard? And we also, follow us on social media. If you're a social media person, we are always sharing resources from other community partners. So whether it's Rhode Island State Council of the Arts or, something a little more local, if we see something that's available for artists, we like to blast it out to everyone. So that's another great resource, too.
Yeah. And Molly, maybe one other thing before we close is something about the work that you do throughout the year at Assets for Artists and the environment that you guys are working in now with so much instability between the state and federal relationships for arts and humanities funding. As you look ahead to the next year, have you got any barometer of how things are going as you look ahead for your own planning? We're still in the current year, but as you plan ahead, do you have any sense of how the tea leaves are reading from national to regional to help people with maintaining ongoing services?
Yeah. I mean, we just had a big gathering of artists a couple of weeks ago, and one of my colleagues was telling me she had multiple conversations with artists who have been full-time artists or teachers, practitioners for a while, and that hustle is just getting to be too hard for them, and they're looking to, at the very least part-time, go back and get a regular job. And I think we will be seeing more and more of that. And I want to say that if that's you, that is 100% okay. That doesn't make you any less of an artist. I have a full-time job working here at Assets for Artists. I don't think of myself as not an artist, just because I am doing the work, not from 9 to 5. And I think especially as funding becomes harder and harder, both we all need to think about how we can be supporting the artists in our world, but also for the artists listening, thinking about there are so many different ways to be an artist, and it doesn't have to be full-time to still be really impactful in the world.
That's a great way to close a conversation today, Molly. That's really encouraging. And again, the website is assetsforartists.org. I should mention, too, I often have writers and poets on the program. And since you're a writer, one day maybe we should do something about your own writing and not necessarily these programs. Because it's great to have writers and artists on the air talking about how they do it.
Yeah, I'd love to. And we can send plenty of great Connecticut artists your way, too, to talk more locally as well.
All right. Well, Molly, I wish you a great summer ahead. We'll be staying in touch. And again, anybody, if you want to find out all these programs, plan ahead. They do fill. Just go to the website, assetsforartists.org. Thanks again, Molly. I wish you a good day. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Okay. All righty. We got a couple of minutes left today. I've got some news to share with you. I have a few free minutes. Sometimes in the summertime, we end a little early for the Red Sox, and I'll do anything I can to help them because they can use all the help they can get, folks, and we're still working on that. Anyway, a couple of things. Next week, we're going to have a special program about health care. We're going to have another report from the Wyndham United to Save Our Healthcare Coalition. We have different guests this time, folks that have not been on before, talking about how healthcare delivery is being restructured in our region. We'll talk about that next week. We also are looking at a special event coming up later in June, a Summer's Palette. It's a community arts and food celebration at Westford Hill Distillers during the day, and it's all brought to you from the Ashford Area Arts Council. So we'll have those good people on next week. And some events to share with you. We are continuing our coverage of the University of Connecticut and its connections to the golf project. As you may know, if you follow the local news, the golf club is looking for a new home. They have some funding. They're trying to find a location. A possible location is off of the East Road area at the top of Spring Hill, which is a residential area near a forest, and the locals have concerns about environmental impacts. They've asked many questions, and they're still waiting for answers. So that process is underway. But what we're doing in the interim is giving them a chance to update you on what they're finding and to give them a chance to reach you when a time of local journalism is very limited and they want to get the news out, and we're going to let them share that information. They'll be coming up soon, and their next public meeting is on Friday, June 26th. I've been to the first 2 meetings to get my notes and understand what they're doing, and the meetings were packed. Everybody was there. They were supporting UConn and the golf team. It was only the location. That's all they were worried about, but it's not the answered questions yet. So this next gathering is June 26th. We'll have people back from East Road at some point beforehand. If you want to get involved in media, if you use your phone and you're shooting lots of videos, but you want to edit them together well and put together, there's training available here through our public access channel 192 on Spectrum TV. They have a public access training program that you can sign up for. It's a way to learn how to use video editing to put stories together in a more professional way. It's free if you're a resident in their area. And their next open house is going to be on July 7th. And the trainings are Tuesday and Thursdays from 6 to 8. And it's a great chance. They have wonderful equipment that you can sign out and use. So you can do a lot more of your own media than just your phone, although phones are phenomenal today. You can learn how to use them much better for professional work at a higher level. And the training, again, begins July 7th. They are on Tuckey Road, 207 Tuckey Road, a few miles away from us in North Windham. You go to their website is ctv192.org. That's also their program schedule. Many of our shows here on WILI are on their channel as well as YouTube. One more thing, Music at the Amp series continues. It's Music at the Garden on the Bridge. Beautiful on 440 Main Street. It's free admission. The next one coming up is going to be June 13th with, I guess it's Rusty Macha. And then June 20th is Don Chwerka. I hope I didn't massacre the name Chwerka. I believe that's true. Apologies. June 20th. And then Selena Nicole, June 27th. Live music on the Bridge, 440 Main in Willimantic. And one last thing, too, the Molten Lava Cinema Series closes out as wonderful things happening on Thursdays. June 25th is the film about Silkwood. Her story is an amazing bit of American history about the environmental movement and corporate behaviors. They're going to show it at 6:30 at 31 Moulton Court in Willimantic. And June 25th is the kickoff with Margaret Gibson at the Poetry in the Park series at the Julia de Burgos Park, a few blocks away from us at the corner of Jackson and Curbstone Way. So that's it for this week. Thanks for sharing some time with us. We'll see you next time. Keep the faith.